Hello, everybody. Greetings from the terminal from hell at DNA Nashville. You know, that's what you get for writing Spirit. All of these people who did not ask to be in this stream. Guys, I'm so committed to this cause that I am, in fact, jumping on with you tonight. I hope that you can hear me because I inadvertently posted up next to the piano man who I'm competing with him while he's basically playing Careless Whispers. But I wanted to run this interview tonight because I don't think I'm going to be going live tomorrow night. And I love this interview, and it is perfect time for Not now is the perfect time for it. And it's with Larry Namer, who was the founder of E. And I'm going to explain it in the interview, but he revolutionized this last wave of media. And as we know, with Jimmy Kimmel's, the sad state of affairs with late night, like whatever's left of it, the old wave is out. Like we're over it. And now we're going into the new wave. So I talked with Larry all about that as somebody who was such a visionary and a renegade in that era and now embarking on the new one. So we have a lot of fun. We talk all about E when it used to be fun, my fun E story. And we'll give you guys a lot to think about, especially as we embark on this new era and all the Jimmy Johns, all these late night people. Oh, this kid is going to start crying. Okay, I'm going to run this interview. You guys have fun. And as always, I will be in the comments. But yes, the Jimmy Johns, all those guys, you better get with the cool kids, be with it because it's all about to see your way out. And Larry and I talk about it. Let's get into it. Without further ado, Larry Namer.
Chris, how was your pee break?
My pee break?
They might flash you.
Random baby.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. Quite an intro.
So bring them into the conversation instead of berating them constantly.
I too am a thought criminal.
Good. Well, I like you already.
Does this look like a girl who's joking around?
No.
But how much do you actually understand money? Especially the new wave.
Beauty or intelligence? When you unleash both, it is men's kryptonite. Welcome to Talk to Me, Taylor. You guys, I just love when things come together. You can take that as you will, okay? Because today I have a man in the chat who not only completely revolutionized media, but indirectly basically dictated my entire career path. Without further ado, we have Larry the Legend, which I just coined him now. I don't know how he feels about this name. We will find out, but this is Larry Namer. All right. Larry was the co-founder of E, which completely redefined not only pop culture, but the last era of network media as we know it, getting E in almost, if I'm right, Larry, 150 countries and shaping an entire generation such as this blonde, okay, is living proof. We're going to get to that. And now this is quite interesting because we are seeing things changing very quickly. And E is one of the first big networks to kind of take a graceful fall, marking the beginning of the end. But Larry always sees ahead. So he is now the CEO of Meton. He's working with projects in AI, Web3, all those good things, we know and love. And for me, this is a moment. I feel like I have the light of Joan Rivers, descending upon me right now in my studio because the span of my life has kind of covered this arc and this shift that we're experiencing. I was an E-News junkie, became a red carpet reporter very intimately, was deemed the celebrity whisperer, and am now diving all in to AI and Web3 platforms ahead of the curve. So Larry, I mean, here we are, hand in hand. Who would have thunk it? No pressure. You just, like I said, paved the path of my entire life. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, happy to be here and happy to hear I've had such an impact.
Larry, are you being modest? And by the way, everybody, we just met. So some of this is new to Larry, but are you being modest, Larry?
No, I'm generally modest because quite honestly, I've never quite grasped what the big deal is. I figured out that people around the world love Hollywood celebrities, and Hollywood gossip, whoopee, and not rocket science.
Wait. You know what is hilarious is I was going to ask you is do you, Larry, personally even care that much? Or were you just like, this is a great idea and I am going to make this major? I mean, it was the first of its kind before TMZ, before all of that, making celebrity news 24/7.
Yeah, well, it's um I've always, I was a Brooklyn kid. I came out to LA to build the cable system, and LA is all about the entertainment business. So you can't help but get the bug, and you want to go to the parties and the premieres because all your neighbors are going and your friends are going and the people you work with are going. So yeah, we did that, but what people don't realize, and this is like one of the things that always kind of, pops in my head is the E is the only TV network that was ever started by regular people and not a big media company, and it still is to this day. It was me and my friend Alan. We came up with the idea, and we wrote the plan, and we spent 3.5 years trying to raise money until we finally raised a little bit. And so it's never been done before. And, everyone would say to us, hey, that's not a bad idea, but you're not Time Warner or you're not Fox or you're not Disney. You can't start a TV network. People don't start TV networks. And, we weren't smart enough to listen. And then, at the time we did it, the going rate to start a TV network was around $100 million. And we found someone who was willing to give us 2.5 million after 3.5 years. And, we just said, you know what, nobody's giving us 100, so we'll take the 200, we'll take the 2.5 and we'll figure it out. And, I had a friend who was teaching radio, television, and film at University of Texas in Austin. And I called him up and said, Brian, do you have kids that need intern jobs for the summer? And he said, yeah, we had trouble placing a lot of folks. And I said, great, send me all you got. And he sent us 31 interns, and what people it goes by because he's a monster now. It's in 142 countries, and arguably the biggest influencer of pop culture in the world still. And but he started with 11 employees and 31 interns.
You know what, though, Larry? It's so interesting because it is sort of the story that, like, the gift that keeps on giving of reinventing the wheel and being the little guy, right, in a world of the conglomerate, so to speak. And I think we're gonna project later into the future and what's coming, but we're seeing that a lot with AI. I just interviewed Pavan yesterday and he talked about same thing. It's sort of like, the David and Goliath and all of these like I said, the little guys, if you will, who are going up against the big ones, and I think we'll win in the end. But it's sort of like that story kind of just reinvents itself every in it just different iterations in every kind of generation, I think.
Yeah, and some of it's a little deceptive. Here in the U.S., we've moved to digital media and internet. Everything is delivered on demand, internet content and stuff. And but outside of the U.S., it's still very traditional media. It's time anchored cable networks and stuff. And somebody gave me a statistic that on any given day, if you were to take the 100 top internet influencers of pop culture, they don't reach as many people as E reaches on that same day.
It's insane, Larry. And even I'm cracking up because when you're like in the beginning, like, oh, big whoop, celebrity news. When I read, because the news did just come out about E News, shutting its doors right now. And so many people, Larry, myself included, especially because I'm a millennial, right? It really redefined not only pop culture, but this sounds a little cheesy, but our aspirations and we thought we could be, right? At the time, everyone wanted to be an MTV VJ. Everyone wanted to be Ryan and Juliana. Larry, I definitely have some makeshift Photoshop before Photoshop of like my face pasted on a clip art red carpet trying to be Juliana Rancic, okay? So it's nostalgic for us. It's real.
Yeah, and and E News was, I mean, it's just one of the shows. And and it was
Yeah.
funny because I think when we met, it was the same week that E News got canceled.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, moaning to like a friend of mine here in LA, going, "Oh, I can't believe it's the last of my shows,"
Yeah.
because that's there, And she just looked at me. She said, "Larry, put the smile back on your face. The thing ran 34 years."
That's fair. That's fair. Larry, with that said, though, we had talked about this a little bit because I mean, my first trip to LA, I'm a tri-state gal too. My first trip to LA, I took a taxi. There were no Ubers yet. Picture it, Larry. And I was like, take me to the E! News office. Like, I'm actually dead ass. And, come to a couple years later, like I said, when I became a red carpet reporter and did my selfie stick thing and completely was out of the box of the vanilla cookie cutter, stylized thing. I told you, I was in a conference room of e-execs. I'd pitched the idea. It was sort of like TikTok before its time. And they looked at me like they were like, you are like they had seen Jesus resurrect. Like they were like, you are ballsy. And best of luck with that, right? So we had talked a little bit about how they were a little stubborn in keeping up with the time. So are you surprised by the what's happening now? And is there anything in hindsight you would have done differently? I know you're at peace with it and on other things,
No,
but
I look, I pay a lot of attention to, um, where technology is taking
yeah,
the business and where all changes in audience behavior are taking the business and stuff. And if you today, I would not start a TV network like E. I mean, it was great then, and it, ran its course, and and like I say, around the world, it's still very, very big. I mean, in the U.S., we've moved beyond, into more digital media. But I'm a great believer in things that are available when you want them on the device you want them, and
hmm
not when I feel like you should be watching it and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you can figure out a way to monetize it in a way that you could sustain it. So what? I mean, I would, do not that I want to do another E, but I would do it very
sure.
differently today. Um, and stuff. And I'm a real believer. I love TikToks and stuff like that. And I've been doing verticals for a few years now. And
Okay. So, with that said, because I know you're very humble and very modest, but you are a pioneer in this space and you do have a gift, obviously, for seeing ahead. So, would you say that this moment, because we're on the precipice of a totally new era in media, right? Is it bigger than the last one? Different? If so, how?
well, I mean, it's different. I mean, every time new technology comes along, it changes the business fundamentally. I mean, you could go back and, people say to me, oh my God, AI is going to put us all out of work and stuff like that. And that's not true. Good storytelling belongs to people, not the machines. But it's a tool, AI is a tool.
Mhm.
Um, and I say to people, I hate to say it, but I remember the days where if I wrote a script, I had to do it on a typewriter. And if I made a mistake, I had this little bottle of whiteout that you would have to white out the thing and then retype over it. And then when somebody, invented the laptop computer and word processing, it just made it so much easier for me to do what I do.
Mhm.
It didn't take away my job. It just made it easier for me to do it and do more of it and do it more efficiently. Um, with AI, quite honestly, I've been using it for even before GBT, became a public thing.
Mhm.
And it's a great tool, but, great storytellers are, few and far between, and you don't get replaced by computers. They help you with stories. I mean, like if you were to ask me, um, to create a business plan, preliminary plan for a TV network on spoons, whatever the subject is, it used to take me 5 days. But, using AI now, and
Mhm.
GBT, GPT-4, and now there's a lot of new ones, it takes me 30 seconds. It takes me 1 hour to edit it and clean it up because it's never 100%. So now, in 1 hour, I'm getting done what used to take me 5 days. And if I
Mhm.
could make that same amount of money for what used to take me 5 days, why would I not love that? Because I reclaimed all that time to do whatever I want. I could do more of it and make more money, or I could learn how to speak Spanish or go on a cruise in the Mediterranean.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you were where we met at the Investor Wealth Summit. I think you were on the billionaire panel, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to listen to you about time management and making money. No, but it is true when it comes to efficiency and all of this. And I have to say, I was a little bit of a naysayer because I am a creative at heart. And when it comes to, AI becoming sentient, eradicating humans, I was a little bit of a traditionalist going, no, we have to stick to humans do it. It'll just take over. And I very quickly changed my tune to say, you know what, I want to not only harness it, but actually help shape it because it's happening. So basically roll with or roll out.
Yeah.
Right. And I often think about the line of, real and fake, as you say, as you were alluding
Yeah. I
to.
mean, look, there's our regulators and the politicians are way behind in creating, the laws and regulations for AI. Um, but there's got to be deterrence. Bad people have to know that if you do bad stuff, there are consequences for it. I mean, I give the example of, a 12-year-old kid wants to drive a car. He can't say, "Give me the keys, I'm going to drive the car." You got to be a certain age. You got to take a course. You have to take a test, and then you have to obey the rules of the road, or there are consequences for not doing it. Right now, there's no consequences for doing bad stuff with AI.
It's sort of the Wild West, right? Which is why
Yeah.
this is all so new. And we see bad apples and everything in crypto. We're going to see it in Web3 AI. I think, it's going to get very interesting. I think many of the tech leaders I speak with are very optimistic on the whole. And I think that, for lack of a better term, shit can absolutely hit the fan and get real. But I like where they're at in terms of being so, again, optimistic. But I do want to ask you, because again, right? I built a career on getting those authentic moments, getting the most high profile celebrities to drop their guard. And I've seen this really, and I'm sure you have as well, this fascinating dichotomy that's played out of people craving authenticity, but being obsessed with filters and all of that, right? So with AI, what do you project is going to happen? Are we going to, many people think there's going to be a pendulum swing back to like real and raw, or are we just going to be so quickly attuned to the synthetic we won't even think twice? I mean, Larry, you and I, we may not even be here right now. I could be my digital twin for all you know.
I, yeah, I just had my digital twin made. Um, but uh, it doesn't replace us. It still needs us. We need to guide it. And, like I say, storytelling is an art that's practiced well by very few. It's a tool, and it's
Yeah.
nothing more than that. It's the same as, your word processing is better and easier than using a typewriter. So,
With that said, Larry, it is changing so quickly. Do you think that there's something about how people consume media that is a through line throughout all these iterations? And there's a little bit of a twofold. And is there something from kind of old school Hollywood media network that actually should be carried into Web3, that Web3 would
Sure.
benefit?
Well, I mean, again, you get to, everything, whether it be long form or short form or whatever form, it all gets down to storytelling. Can you tell your story effectively to capture an audience within whatever period of time you want to do it? But if you really look at it, and, one of the things that I caught on really early, I was really part of the success of was I always looked at it and said, if you go back to the early days of video content creation or visual content creation, it was you had to come to Hollywood in order to make a movie. You needed big sound stages and big cameras, and back in the day, cameras were $250,000 for a camera, and it's not as good as the camera on your iPhone. So you had to come, no matter where you were, you had to come to Hollywood to make it. But as technology kept bringing down those costs, and you didn't need the big sound stages, you began to need now with digital. You could do it in your bedroom, and like I said, you could use your iPhone and go to Nigeria tomorrow and make a movie on your iPhone. So it really began changing Hollywood from being the geographic center of creation, really to
Right.
becoming a measure of quality. It's a measure of creativity, but it's no longer a geographic place that you have to be in. And, it's changed dramatically. And, with technology, people got, a lot more talented people could create stuff for smaller and smaller niches. So when you think of some of the stuff that you're seeing in digital media now or on the internet or Web3, um, it couldn't exist in the old models because you needed bigger audiences in order to sustain it financially. But
Mm-hmm.
now, if you take a podcast, back in the old day, you would have had to do a talk show, and a talk show would cost you $300,000. Well, you couldn't get a big enough audience to be able to support a daily $300,000 expense. But with podcasting, letting you do it from your bedroom, literally, um, you could get away with audience of just a few thousand
Mm-hmm.
people and be financially viable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's changing. And you couldn't do short form before. Now you can do short form. Now you have serialization, you have verticals, and it's all good. It Sometimes I want to watch stuff on my TV and I want to sit down and just watch a movie. And sometimes I'm, sitting on a train and going through my TikTok feed, or something like that. It's not this or that. It's really all.
So what do you think, Larry, happened specifically with E, right? I mean, we're seeing again, there is such a turn of the tide. NBC just rebranded. I don't know if you saw that. Was it a matter of just being stubborn, being in the box, like not kind of getting up with cool kids, so to speak?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but because I grew up with those folks.
Yeah,
Everybody fights to hold on to what was,
right,
as opposed to
right, right.
realize what's inevitable. I mean, you just look at things like the music business. I mean, they bitch and moan that oh, iTunes is now so dominant in Spotify and stuff, and I go, yeah, because you spent 10 years fighting digital music as opposed to embracing it, and that would have been you. Um, but and you see the same thing now. To a little bit lesser degree. You saw the Screen Actors Guild and the Writers Guild go on strike because of AI and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I just say to those guys, "Go, it's going to happen. If you
Mm-hmm.
learn from what the music business did. I mean, when you look at it, you look at like the Screen Actors Guild, they complain, oh, Netflix, we're never going to let AI happen, and Netflix has been bad and stuff. And I go, okay, so well, you made a deal with Netflix for 10 years when Netflix was a little nothing. It was like you make feature films, you were great, and if you made TV, you were kind of in the middle, and if you did Netflix, you were like at the bottom of the barrel. And then COVID came, and then everybody had to stay home, and they said, "Hey, this Netflix stuff is pretty good." And and then Netflix spawned Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and Hulu and Max and all of those things. And yeah, and then they're doing this contract, and when I speak to the SAG folks, they go, "Oh, don't worry about AI. We've got someone who knows how to use it." And I'm going, "That's such a wrong answer. I mean, you don't need someone who knows how to use AI. You need a futurist. If you're going to do a 10-year deal, I mean, if you just look at the difference between GBT and GBT4, in 8 months it became 800 times more powerful." I said, anybody who tells you that they know where AI is going to be in 3 years is full of it. I mean, there's no way anybody knows where there's going to be in 10 years. So why would you do that deal, or at least do a deal where if certain things happen, you have an out? Um, I mean, so a lot of stuff is self-inflicted pain as far as I'm concerned.
You epitomized what goes on. You hit the nail on the head, and this could open, I won't do it right now, but it could open such a can of worms about being behind, not keeping up with the times, even in Hollywood. How many times? Like, okay, it's a 2,700th time we're gonna reboot something today, right? It's the lack of creativity and forward thinking, right? As you put it, because it's just really these arbiters deciding and clinging to what's safe, as you put it, which I've come up against time and time again. So,
People resist change. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
again, I try and give examples that people could relate to. I said, you know, way back we were a nation of like farms and ranches. And you had horse ranchers all along, and they weren't happy when Henry Ford brought out the car. And they were like, "Oh, we hate this. We're never going to let it happen."
So true.
I take people. I said, "Come look out the window with me. Tell me how many horses you see and how many cars you see." I said, "It's going to happen, whether you like it
It's
or not."
so with that said, Larry, I mean, you built an entire generation of kind of like influencers before its time
Yeah.
and leading voices, right? Taking in all you do now, what is something that young disruptors now aren't getting? They're not hitting. Maybe something they actually need to double down on.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean the influencers. I mean, we did develop those little Kardashians and and folks like
Little.
that. And somehow you disappeared. I don't know why.
Oh, I still see you. Maybe it's the AI taking over. They want to take over our interview.
Yeah, uh, I think most of the folks that I see here in this country, they're really still not getting the globalization of media. You still there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. Because for some reason I don't see you anymore.
Oh,
Uh,
shoot.
I don't know why, but we've become very global, and I'll give you a silly statistic, and I
Okay.
love silly statistics. I do a lot of stuff in China. I have a big company in China.
Yep.
There are more people in China that are fans of Gossip Girl. You remember Gossip Girl?
How could I forget?
More people are fans of Gossip Girl in China than are members of the Communist Party in China. Think about that.
Wow.
A girl, a
Wow.
millennial girl in China has much more in common with a millennial girl in the US than she does with people in her own country.
That's powerful stuff. And even in the beginning, when you downplay, what you did, I mean, that just goes to show how powerful pop culture is. And I always say pop culture drives politics, not the other way around. Like,
Yeah.
that's how powerful it is.
Yeah. I mean, look, we had Talk Soup and
Yeah.
many things, and then Howard Stern, and then Ryan
Yes.
Seacrest, and the Kardashians and stuff. I mean, they were much more influential over things that happened in the world than some of the other stuff that you see.
Well, Larry, this is right on time because you bring up the Kardashians, you bring up Howard Stern, and I will always give Kim credit for building a billion dollar global influential empire from, what started, many argue, the conception of this sex tape, right? But I interview so many leaders in tech, in media, and I have to tell you, they all basically agree that sex really drives the evolution of technology, of media. You think about it like VHS, right? The next iteration and all this. Over the scope of your entire work and your experience, what do you think about that? Would you agree?
But I totally agree. I mean, you just have to look at it.
Taylor, who are we
You
kidding?
know,
Yes.
I mean, you go into just linear cable and stuff, and
Yeah.
even before you really had hardcore, before VCRs, even you had things on Cinemax, um, that were racy,
Yes.
sexual oriented content and stuff. And then you had Betamax and VHS, and they were entirely driven by sex tapes. And then the internet. What made the internet grow was, not CNN news, but it was, the ability to access pornographic materials. Um, it's sex drives every new technology, or has done so.
The gift that keeps on giving, Larry. Am I right? I actually, a friend of mine is Joe Francis. We host a show together who created Girls Gone Wild. So there you go, living proof of that.
I,
As
I
we wrap,
remember it well.
don't we all? Don't we all? Did your paths cross, by the way? I feel like they had to have at some point.
Yeah, we did. Our paths crossed. We were both connected to Hawaiian Tropic
Yes.
at one
Yes.
time. Yeah,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I think we both were, probably in Daytona for the Hawaiian Tropic contests and all of that stuff. But yeah, we've met.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show, right, that underneath all of technology is not only just humanity, but also what like the most basic boiled down needs of being human, right? So there you go. Under all the advancements, there's that. Um, Kind of rounding things out here. What do you think, Larry, is perhaps the riskiest yet could reap the biggest reward? Like an idea that maybe there have been kind of whisperings of, but no one has said out loud or no one will say out loud.
Well, I think you still have. Oh, what was the number? 5% or 6% of people are actually using AI, which means 95% are not. Um, Clearly, if you're not using AI, you're going to either be left behind or out of business
Mm-hmm.
or something. I mean, you got to learn how to prompt. I work with folks over at the Writers Guild, some of the older writers and stuff, and teaching them how to prompt and stuff. And these guys are getting work. Before they were discriminated against because everybody wanted young writers, and now the old guys know how to use AI and they're great storytellers, and they're getting to work, and the young guys are not. Um, so you got to jump on the bandwagon. You got to keep your eyes open and your ears open, and and now I have people who are great movie makers, and I try and convince them that the audience is really moved to things like real shorts, serialized drama movies, rom-coms or whatever they are, and that they better start learning those forms of doing it. And they go, oh, no, 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 I'm a filmmaker. Well, you'll be a filmmaker and you won't be able to pay your rent.
You said can we make rom-coms great again, for the love of God? Somebody
All you got to do
resuscitate
is
the dead body of rom-coms.
there are now over 200 short form apps out there now, and the predominant form is rom-coms.
There you go. Giving the people what they want. Well, Larry the Legend, do you like my nickname? Has anyone else called you that, or can I take pride in just making it up right
Yeah,
now?
well, it's kind of funny because, up until recently, fairly recently, people used to just think I was out of my mind, because I would be the contrarian. Now, all of a sudden, I'm a legend, I'm a visionary or whatever, and I just laugh, kind of.
Larry, Howard Stern, same thing, right? Again, we see it time and time again. Like at the time, just being told you're crazy, it'll never work. It's a this. It's not like everything else. And then, here you
Yeah.
are.
Well, we really responsible for making Howard. Yeah, I don't know if I told the story, but I ran into Howard in an elevator in New York, and he kept telling me, oh, I'm a radio jock. You got to come and see my show.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh God, radio's dead, guy. I hate to tell you this, but
Did you say that out loud?
oh yeah,
Yeah, I
and
let him know it.
and he kept saying, no, you got to come and watch my show. And eventually, Alan and I did. And, I just looked at it and said, you know what? This is actually a throwback to an old TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati that was on TV here, which is all about an ensemble cast that worked at a radio station. I said, this is not a radio show. This is a sitcom. And, we were right, man. We did pretty well with Howard, and we did pretty well for Howard.
Do you think that he always knew what he was doing? Like it was an accident, or was that really him and he's just kind of grown and evolved? I always wonder this. Or I'm like, was he just literally the smartest businessman who knew exactly what he was doing with the shock jock
Yeah, I
stuff?
think he was. He's very, very intelligent, and he knew exactly what he was doing and stuff. I mean, look, he made a lot of money on going over to Sirius Radio,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought as not just as a financial move, it makes all the sense in the world, because we would never pay him anything close to what they were paying him. Um, but it, to me, it kind of killed off the uniqueness of what Howard did. I
I
mean, when I
agree.
would watch it on regular television,
Yeah.
I should say, listen to it on the radio, you always knew that there was this element of him getting in trouble. He's going to say fuck or something, and he's going to get fined by the FCC. He's going to get taken off the radio. There was always a jeopardy point. But then once he moved over to Sirius, it was you're allowed to say all those words that he used to get in trouble for.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no more of that pending disaster there. And, and after like a while, I go, all right, Howard, I get it. You can say fuck, fuck, fuck all you want. It's boring for me now.
And actually, this is a really great way to round it out because it is sort of giving a nod to what was, be it, E! News, Howard, because I don't know if you saw, but Sirius just canceled his show.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of, again, the beginning of the end and kind of embarking on this new era. So last question for you with that said is, and this is a totally non-selfish, asking for a friend question, Larry, is what's advice you would give to today's young media rebels to build a lasting legacy, something that actually has longevity and impact and is not a flash in the pan?
Well, I mean, first, I think you really got to look globally, and you don't produce something that's just for the U.S. anymore because, again, technology allows you to produce for the world now. You don't have to produce for the U.S. only in English. There are huge audiences out there, and like I say, just think of more Gossip Girl fans in China than there are members of the Communist Party. Shows you how powerful the media could be.
Yeah.
But the thing that I tell most people, everybody gets caught up in this thing that goes around like follow your passion. And I think following your passion is like one of the worst things you could possibly do. Most people really confuse their passion with their hobby. And, real life eventually takes over. You got to pay the rent, you got to eat, you got kids, you got to educate, and all this stuff. And if you follow your passion, but you can't make a living out of it, you're not going to be able to do it for very long and you're going to waste a hell of a lot of time. So my thing is find something that you're good at, work your butt off until you become great at it, and then that will become your passion. And then being great at what your new found passion is gives you the financial wherewithal to follow your hobbies and do those. Like for me, I'm a wannabe chef. I've been cooking since I'm 12. I love cooking.
Oh my God,
My
same.
passion is cooking. It's
Same.
not making TV, but the fact that I could, sustain myself financially by doing the media stuff allows me to go in the kitchen and cook for 2 hours a day.
Larry, you're a savage, but it's so true. I love it. You know who's led us astray are this slew of influencers who got huge off making a smoothie. I'm like, make it make sense. So basically, in a world of smoothie making influencers, be a Larry neighbor, and I'll leave it at that. Larry, thank you so much.
All right.
Obviously, not your first rodeo.
No,
I love it.
I've been around a little bit.
I see that. Yeah, something tipped me off to that. Well, thank you, Larry. I so appreciate it.
All righty, thank you.